Yeah, we got it.
Okay. 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 So the federated content tool arises from the need of being able to share content across all the ESDIS websites. And we wanted to create a synergy where the code remained where it was originated, but it could be easily shared and, at a granularity that made sense for everybody. And so we looked at several ways that we could do this. And one thing I want to point out that what we are sharing here is content, not data. Data says, I know ESDIS is big on data. But we looked at our syndicated tools, and they usually tend to be a one way. They go one to many ways of sending data. So we created this tool so we can federate the RSS feeds and create a many-to-many synergy, while the original content can remain in place where it was created. Okay, so how does the tool work? We have all the DAACs in Earthdata going into the tool, and they can use the tool to create RSS feeds or to ingest existing feeds, and then they can manage it there, and then they can go in and register for feeds from other, that other DAACs or Earthdata has created. So that was our approach, is to use the ubiquitous RSS feed to leverage it for this tool. So as I mentioned, one of the great things about this is that the information remains where it's created, but it can easily be shared across the ESDIS set of team members. I mean, all the DAACs and all the other websites. So how does it work? So here's the model, and we want to bring to here that we have those are called the producers, and the producers are the ones that go in the tool and they create the feeds that they want to be shared with others. And then we have the tool aggregates those feeds, and they can come in and they can manage the feeds from inside the tool. And then there are the consumers, and they go in and they register to use the feeds via subscriptions. And they can use, as you can see, some will be contributing very little. Some others will be contributing more. In the same way, some DAACs, if they want to use a lot of the information from other places, they will use much. Some other ones will maybe occasionally be interested in using the tool. So we can support the various.
Hey, thank you. But I try and SSH the core data at coredata.shore.environment.org.
Hey, can you mute?
Okay, I think
I muted him.
Okay, so we have the producers have the ability to federate their own content if it already exists, or they can also use the tool to create their content. They can tag their content with predefined keywords and search parameters to make it easy for others to find out the information that they want, and they can manage the feeds from within the tool. The consumers, have the ability to search and show me all the feeds that meet the criteria that I'm interested in, and then they can create subscriptions where they, based on a given criteria, and then they can manage their subscriptions. Okay, so before I go, I just want to review a little bit about the anatomy of a feed. So a feed is just a channel, and you will see the tool when you go in. You can create a feed, and it's just going to be the empty channel. And then we have to go in and we have to add items that are the individual items per feed. So the required fields for an item, you always have to have the title, the description, and a link. Similar, the subscriptions are merely feeds. So when you create a subscription, you have to first create the channel, which is like your container, and then you go in and then you add the items to them. Okay, so let's start with the demo. Okay, any questions in the meantime? Well, since I started in a different computer, so we have to set it up, but we had it. No questions so far? Okay, so we understand that there would be about maybe 3 different types of ways that producers can use the RSS feed, the Federated Content Tool. We will have producers that already create their own feeds. And then, just 1 second, let me log in here. Okay, okay. So an example of that will be like the PODAC. You know, they can have their own feeds and they can decide to just manage them on their website, but they will come in here and they will ingest the existing feeds into the tool. Another way that we can use the tool will be you can create a feed. For example, Drupal already has an automatic way of generating feeds from your website. So Earthdata has a standard feed that is created through Drupal, but it might not be as clean as how we wanted it to be. And so we may want to go in and ingest that feed and then clean it up and make it work as we want. And another option will be somebody like maybe CD Disk. They have an HTML-based website, and that means that they can use this to actually create the RSS feed that they're going to display on the website. Okay, so this is our dashboard, and here when we're talking about a producer, we will use my feeds. You will create your feeds from here, and you will manage them. When you're talking about a producers, and I mean the same person can be it's just a role, so the same person can be both a producer and a consumer. And then they can come here and manage their subscriptions. We can view all feeds, and we have a way of managing the groups. That way we know who the users have access in based on their DAAC. We know who's creating the feed, and it's going to also be used as a tag of the feed so that we can do. And then we have something in here in the dashboard that we call the newsletter, and is many folks, after we did the initial beta release, they were interested in just getting notifications when certain feeds were updated or added to the system. So folks can come here and then they can register for a notification of feeds based on some kind of criteria, and then they will go. So if I have time, I'll come back and show you how that works. Okay, so you have a feed, and so how would we go about? So I mentioned to you that would be somebody where we can just already have our feeds in our own websites, and I'm going to be using PODAC as an example. And they have a Drupal site. So, Drupal creates already, from the homepage a feed. And right now we're only supporting RSS type of feeds. We know that there are other types, but we will do that. And then maybe you say, okay, I'm ingesting and I want the tools to be getting constant tools updates, because this is a very active website and we just want to be kept up to date. So we import the feed. So we have the product feed. Now, since I imported the entire feed, I can see that I can see all the items in that feed. So product may decide, remember here they're acting as the producers. So this is just the standard feed that comes out from their website. So they will keep it this way. They're not going to manage it here. And this is hypothetical. Here's an example. And they will manage it from their own website. So let's just do in all the updates will be displayed here, and folks could come and register to subscribe to their feeds. Okay, what would be the other scenario will be, for example, let's say that we want to create an Earth Data feed that we can use. So the Earth Data site is also a Drupal site. So it creates automatically a feed. So we're going to leverage that. And we have here, so this is the feed. And we want to ingest what is already in the home page. So basically what it does, it brings us this stuff and we're going to import it. But then we realize that, okay, did I type something wrong? Earthdata.nasa. Oh.
The XML, I guess.
XML, okay. Okay, so here is our feed. So if we go in and we view the items, we say, okay, we want to create an RSS feed, but whatever it comes from the standard default feed that is created from Drupal, we don't necessarily want our feed to include that. So we can come here and say, we really don't want to have this article and this article and this showing in our feed. So you can come in and then you can delete those. And this way you can start customizing your feed. So we can delete it. Yes, I want to delete it. And maybe I want to make sure that I tag all these feeds in a special way so that folks know how to find it. And maybe I will tag this with Earth Data homepage features. Okay, so I'm going to call it that, and it's going to be tagged like that. And we submit. So we have tagged. I didn't select. I'm supposed to have selected all the items because I already deleted the ones I didn't want. So we will tag the remaining ones with Earth Data homepage. And we submit. Okay, and you can have multiple tags too. So this is the second case where we can start with a feed that's already created, like the one created automatically, and customize it as we wish. And then we have a case where folks can come here and create and use this to create their own feeds. So let me create a new window here, and I will use as an example the CDD's website, because I know for a fact that they are XML only. And how are they going to be able to leverage this to create feeds that can be used by others? So let's go here to their news page, and I want to create a feed that talks about this news item here. So we can go back to our feed that I'm creating. And now remember that we have to first create the container. So I'm going to create the container, and I'm going to call it CDDIS RSS. And, you may put their URL, but right now we're just creating the container, so we are good, and we're going to save this. And so I have my container, and if I go look at it, I don't have any items in there yet because I haven't added any. So let's add an item. Let's add the news that we and so we had the news. Let's get a title for the news. And I need to come here and get the website URL where folks will be redirected to read more about it. And then we can come here and we're going to add that. It automatically stamps it with today's date, but if they want to add something else, they can do it. They can tag it here or they can tag it later. And let's save the feed item. Okay, so we have demo how somebody can already just reuse their RSS feeds and do very little. That was the PODAC example. We showed how the Earth data can come in and use it and customize it the way they want, and then we show how we can just use it to create a feed that can later be. So if we take a look at it here, we have this one. Okay. So if you look, then you can get. Okay. So sorry, this had it all set up in my computer, but anyway, you can go and you can see that you can preview your feed, and then you can use the URL from here and include it on your website. Now, talking about that, we could, like for example, we may want similarly we're going to do the subscriptions, but you can see here in the feed we have what is called the widget. And I'll demo that but how it can be used, for example, for CDDIS, they can use the widget and decide, okay, this is how I want to organize my feeds and how I want them to be displayed. So let's just show here in Earth Data. So we just grab everything that was on the home page, and now we want to add a widget. And a widget is just a format, so maybe we just want to call this Earth Data News, and all we want to have the news. And then let's preview what that feed that we just created looks like. Okay, so you can see this is just straightly ingested from our homepage. And it's long, and so I decide, well, this is just going to go in a small window in the Earth Data homepage, and I really don't want to display all this data because it's somewhere else. So I just decide all I want to do is I want to display my links and my titles. And well, maybe for the feed I will keep the description, but for each of the items I'm not interested in the description. Let's just do the link and the titles. And, let's leave it to display 5 items because now it's going to be smaller. And it's going to be maybe a very small little window, so I want to allow pagination. And then I do a preview and figure out Is this is what I want to do? Yes. So it's going to be a little window, and it's going to display the titles of the feeds and the links, and there will be pagination. So I'm pretty happy with this, and I save it. Okay, so I have now a widget. How do we use this? Okay, so we go here, and it shows us you can go in and grab the snippet of your code, and this now carries your format that you define. And you go to some page in your website, and so I'm just going to use here, and I just grab a basic page, just showing you how this will work. And I am going to be using full HTML here. So let's make sure I indicate so. And then we put our snippet, and then we give it a title. So we're going to call it Earth Data News. And we save this. I could have just previewed it. And it shows. So you see how our widget now, you can embed this in your code, in your website in a very easy manner. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about subscriptions. So all this that I talked about up till now was the producers, how you get your feeds into the tool and how you can produce feeds that you can later use in your websites. So now let's talk a little bit about, how I get subscription to other people's feeds. Okay, so one way we can do this, you can go in and then you can view all the feeds that are available in the system, and you can directly subscribe to a feed. So, you can just go ahead and subscribe, and then it gives you all the items in the feed. You can decide, okay, I'm really only interested in Earth, so that's the only item, and I'm going to create a subscription that only includes that item. So here we're going back. We first selected the items, and now we have to create a container where those items are going to live. So that's one way that you can get a subscription by just selecting all the feeds into it. Okay, another way of creating a subscription is, might be a little bit more manual, where maybe you're going to want to have Aquarius information, and that's all you want. So you're going to call that container to be Aquarius. And remember, we're just doing the container is empty. So now we want to add the items that are going to be there. So we go into the items, and then we can view all items. And then I can do a search. So I want to filter this by all the items in the system that have the word Aquarius. So we filter, and you can filter by various parameters. But since we ran a little late, and then I looked and I say, yeah, this is exactly what I want my subscription. I only want to be subscribed to items that are Aquarius. I'm happy, so I subscribe to them. So I come back here and view my subscriptions. Wrong. So I go to my subscriptions. So this was my Aquarius. So at this point I can view, and then you can see, I didn't have my, okay, so I have my Aquarius, and I wanted to view. I guess I didn't save it. I thought I saved it. Okay, but then you will see all the items that you had subscribed at that point. We also have an auto subscribe. So once you have defined a subscription, you can say, okay, I want updates of these subscriptions every time that they happen just send them to me automatically. So this is how you create your subscriptions. Another way is you may just want to subscribe and say, okay, I want a newsletter that shows me every time there is an Aquarius information, and I'm going to filter all the feeds on Aquarius, and maybe you may want to add additional tags to narrow that. And then, so you are creating, that is going to be your newsletter. You can create several newsletters or just one that has that. And then you start adding who's going to be subscribing to that. So I can add my email here, and I say, please notify me every time that, and I just want to be really informed every day of what's going on. So you add your, and you can add as many people to a given subscription. Oh, I need to save this, sorry. So we do this. I want this daily. I want to save it. Okay. And then I can add as many. So, if I can immediately say, okay, send me right now what new things, and then it will, from now on, it will send me, as I had selected, daily updates on any item that has the word Aquarius. So once I get the notifications, then I can decide to come into the tool and decide, hey, I want to register for that. So you can do it a little bit more proactively ahead of time, or you can just get notifications and then go in and decide that that's what you want to do. We also have a way to manage the categories, which are the tags, and we have some predefined tags, but folks can go in here and add new tags as necessary, and so that we can, once we decide what the standard tags are. And that's pretty much the demo. Is there any questions? And one more thing here, we have a link to a user guide. So folks that are coming here and may have some additional questions have access to the user guide.
Well, thanks, Rosemary. Any questions from other people before I ask a couple? Well, I have a couple. So, Rosemary, who in the sort of the website administration team, who controls the tool for the website in the DAAC or the center? Or is it anyone who is signed in can get a feed, or?
Hey Bruce, this is Ross. I can answer that. So this is tied into our Drupal accounts. So if we have representatives through the different DAACs, and inside this module there's basically user management. So just because you have let's say an Earth Data login, the URS, or if you have a Drupal account to do part of the CMS, it doesn't mean that you have access to the feeds. You actually have to have that as one of your roles added within Drupal, and then you show up inside the user list in the managing the sources, and then we can assign you to a source. So the example, the DAAC representatives, somebody like Vicki Wolf, she has a Drupal account. She has the role or responsibility of the syndication, and that allows her to go in there with the feeds, and then we actually go in there and assign her to the source of ASF, so that when they're publishing and doing their stuff, we can see the feeds underneath ASF.
Cool, thank you.
It's all managed through the Earth Data team. the development side with Rosemary and Greg and those guys out there with Raytheon in California. And then, we also manage the accounts and such through Earth Data here at EOSDIS. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Okay. So our hopes are for this this piece is that in the future that when a data center is interested in pushing something out, we have kind of a gambit, right? We have some on the spectrum on one end that like PODAC and CDAC and NSIDC, they have RSS feeds and they have the established pieces of their websites, and then we have some of the other data centers that they still run in HTML and they don't have the capability, and that's one of the reasons why Rosemary and the team developed that widget is to allow somebody with HTML to still create a feed and then publish it on their website. So the hopes for us in the future are that when they have a new data set or a new piece of news or something that's going out on a regular basis, that not only would they have the feeds working through Earth Data, but then either people like yourself through ESIP or others or other data centers, you can subscribe to the various feeds independently, so that as you don't have to rely on Earth Data, for example, but you can see the feeds show up. So it's a way for them to have more exposure on the front page. We'll have that updated soon, and you'll be able to see the RSS feeds on our front page.
Yes, we are planning also to have special tags like a feature item. So if a DAAC or somebody wants to feature something specific, we just look at those tags and we will display that in a more prominent place in the Earth Data website. So it really creates a nice synergy between all the DAACs and Earth Data. Any other questions?
Well, I also want to just say how good I think it was such a great idea to have the newsletter because as a way for people to discover content that they may want to create a feed from and not have to. So you're pushing stuff out too by email. I think that's a really clever idea.
Yes, and then people can get. It's not just send me a message of all the feeds that get updated. They are able to very specific say I only interested in items that have these keywords, and they can define each of them of how they want them to be. So the newsletters become very targeted, and hopefully it won't be just one more email that folks received. Yeah, so we have a lot of different keywords and parameters that they can use to narrow down their areas of interest.
And those keywords are taken directly from a keyword extraction from GCMD, so people that are familiar. And it's so that we have a nice continuity and standardization across the board.
Any additional questions?
So how many different websites are connected through this right now? Would you say, or either as consumers, I guess.
Well, right now it's Earth Data, and we have a plan. It has been rolled out to all the DAACs, so it's 12 of them, and we have this. We're working on getting the articles and getting everybody feeling comfortable with the tool, but the initial rollout includes the data centers and Earth Data. Yeah, we're also thinking of extracting this and adding additional function. Using this to be able to notify when the system is going to be down in Earth Data, when we are going down for services, any type of news that we need to get out and that needs to be current, we're also going to be using the RSS feeds.
So this is a feature or a module with a front end on it that you're sharing. How is this distributed to the Drupal folks?
Well, we started with a Drupal module, but we have done a lot of customization to it. And right now our interest is for folks to come here in Earthdata and use the tool from Earthdata. But I think it could be extracted and made into its own application that can be reused in other instances.
All right. Any further questions for Rosemary? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rosemary. This is a wonderful piece of work, and we will put a little. This is being recorded, so people who are not on the call will make